Hi, please introduce yourself.
My name is Marzulla, and I am the French teacher here at JP Stevens. This is my 10th year here at JP, and it's my 21st year teaching overall.
What made you want to join the JPS community?
From day one, I've heard nothing but great things about JP and the sense of community that they have here. The students being wonderful students, but also the staff itself, having a stellar staff. And it was just a very positive place, and I really liked that we were supportive of one another, student to teacher, but also teacher to teacher. And it really has been, I found through the experience, exactly what people had said it was. And you have to kind of be here to experience it and appreciate that. But I was very excited to be a part of this community, and I still am.
Why did you choose to teach French compared to any other subject?
So I fell in love with French as a student. I took it in 7th grade, which I'm dating myself because that was back when we had junior high. It wasn't even middle school. And all of my friends were taking Spanish, and everyone told me not to take French because it was so hard and I was gonna fail it. And I was like, no, I want to take French. And I had this wonderful French teacher who really made me fall in love with the French language. And I just continued it. And I knew I wanted to be a teacher, and the two kind of just converged into one. And I have no regrets looking back. I love the French language and I love teaching.
How has the transition into in-person from virtual learning made you feel?
I was very excited to be back in the classroom with my students. I really missed that interaction, the face-to-face. But I have to admit, it was a lot harder than I thought. I thought it would be the transition would be smoother. And I'm not quite sure why it is as difficult as it is, but I know from talking with my students that it's not just teachers who are feeling it, it's also the students. Just getting used to, acclimated to working in the classroom, getting acclimated to working with one another again. But I'm still so happy to be back. It is great to be able to make those connections and just talk to students in the hall or before coming into the classroom. It just makes it so much easier to check in and see what's going on. Yeah.
What are some things you do to keep your class engaged?
So one of the things that I do is to incorporate a lot of music in my class. I started this several years ago, and I call it Mardi Musical. So every Tuesday I'll introduce an artist, a Francophone artist. We talk about the song, and students have the opportunity to express their opinions. And I really found that music has just connected with students so much. There's so many of my students who not only love music, but play a musical instrument or dance, and they really are able to relate to that. We even developed it into a contest that I have as a spoof of March Madness, and we call Mani Musical, and it's kind of from that. I've also included a Mani Noel, which is where we use French Francophone commercials during December. And that really brings in the culture, and I think students, for one, it's very relaxing for them and interesting. I try to also incorporate a lot of current events, things that are for making them connect to the French language, and using the language as a way to teach not just curriculum, subject matter, but also things, life skills, just things that will help them to be more confident in themselves, and that they can take away so that when they leave the classroom, they'll remember those things and maybe even still be interested in pursuing French. Another thing I try to do is incorporate choice, especially when we do like an extended learning assignment where students can choose an area that interests them, say music or art, or watching films or YouTube videos. And that, again, not only exposes them to the culture, but the language itself. They can hear it, it helps with pronunciation and their comprehension. So those are just some of the ways that I try to engage my students.
What is some advice you would give to your students?
Number one thing advice I would give to my students is to have more confidence in yourself. I think growing up, I wish I had more confidence as a student, to not be afraid to try new things, having being afraid of failing and letting that stop you from stepping out of your comfort zone. There's so much you can learn, even when making mistakes, and how that's so much part of the journey, and you really need to experience that. I think we're under this false impression that in order to be successful, it's this climb up the ladder, where it's step by step by step, and it's so not the case. So many times you take a step forward and then 2 steps back, and just being accepting of yourself and forgiving if you make those mistakes, allowing yourself to do that. So having confidence and advocating for yourself would be my number one thing that I would advice that I would give to my students.
And lastly, how has your experience been at JPS so far?
I've had a wonderful experience at JP. From day one, I felt like I belonged here, and I have taught in different places. I started out teaching in a middle school, and then taught in Brick, and then taught in Roselle Park, and took a sabbatical for several years to raise my children. And coming back when I first started at JP, it felt like I came home. It's just been a really great, wonderful experience, and I feel like I've been able to grow as a professional, but also as a person. And kind of going back to some of the advice that I told you I would give to my students, were having confidence in yourself and stepping out of your comfort zone. I really feel like JP has, and it had when I first came, this environment that was supportive and allowed you to, even as a teacher, be a learner and try experiment with new things. And that's so important. And it's really true how what we ask the students to do, we need to embody that and use that as an example to our students.